Well, good afternoon, Lisa.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining me for afternoon tea. And thank you to our audience today and also the audience that's going to be watching the recording. Thank you very much. So today my guest is Lisa, and we're going to find out how that was conceived, because we've also got an author, and it's called Katie and Her New Chapter, for those that have not had the privilege of hearing about Katie and want to know more about Katie. The book is one of those books that you can't put down. You've got to find out what happens next to Katie. Very, very compelling reading. I think I read it in a couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just could not put it down.
Yeah.
And I'm one of these slow readers. So.
Oh, brilliant. That makes me feel better when people say that, because some people have said I'm dipping in and out because they're busy or obviously whatever. And some people are like, I couldn't put it down. I read it in a couple of days. What surprised me is that quite a few men have read it as well.
Yeah. And I think it's very good for men to read it.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about the book at the moment, because I want to know Lisa.
Okay.
I get to know Lisa, as no doubt everybody else does. So what was your childhood like?
Quite uneventful, to be honest. So I'm just turning this up, sorry. Go on. Quite uneventful, to be honest. I don't remember anything or very, very little about like primary school or nursery, nothing about my actual very young childhood. I don't remember anything, really. It was only until I got to junior school, so I would be about 11. Yeah, senior school, junior school is 11, isn't it? And that was quite eventful because I was bullied. And I was bullied by a boy, which I suppose I've like buried it since then. But it's quite strange to like think back on it now, because I think, well, that was possibly the start of my downward spiral with my mental health. And then I often think, well, what was theirs like? As well, because what makes people do things like that? Is it a control thing? Is it I'm bigger than you, or I'm better than you, or what is the reasoning behind people actually doing that? Because I know a lot of people have suffered it, and since I've released the book, people have been in touch and like, I've been there, and you just don't realise. You just do not realise what people are going through, and it's very, very hard. I didn't ask for help when I was being bullied. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what course of action to take. I just put up and shut up, basically, until somebody sorted it out for me. I was really lucky, because once they stepped in, it stopped. But if it hadn't have been, it would have gone on through the whole of my school life, I would have thought.
So it was a teacher that saw it going on, was it? Or
no, it was another pupil, actually.
Another pupil that reported it.
Yeah, no, she sorted it.
Oh, she sorted it. Yeah. She took
Brilliant,
yeah. Good on that pupil.
Yeah, she just went, thank you very much, good night, and that was it.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
That's
have I misremembered all this? Did this happen? And you do start questioning yourself when people start treating you like that.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to let go of the feelings that they instilled in you, especially later in life, I find.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just do wonder what their life was like then. and what he's like now as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So did you enjoy school apart from the bullying, or were you glad to get out?
Oh, I was so glad to leave. I hated it. I hated it. I wanted to do drama. So I took drama, and then my teacher at the time was ill. So we basically had no teacher for the whole of our GCSEs, really, pretty much. Dipping in and out with like head teachers and English teachers and, you know, different supply teachers, I'm sure there were. And I wanted to pursue an acting career, would you believe? And I thought, yeah, I'll take that. I'd quite like being on the stage and whatever. And then my confidence was just completely kicked out of me, for want of a better phrase. And because that combined with the lack of a drama teacher, I, in the end, said, I'm going to just do my English homework in this class because I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm never going to pass drama because of the situation. So I just did my English homework in there. And I had to have extra help with maths. Maths I'm terrible at, still am. So all in all, it was a bit pants, really, to be honest. And I just thought I did go to college, never went to university. I did go to college, and I enjoyed college, but I detested school. I went back to college several times since I left school, but school, no. I was so glad when that flour and eggs came rolling down the road in your face and in your hair, and I still remember being covered from head to foot, and I'm like, don't wear your best shirt. And then of course you sign the shirts in my day. I got all sorts of signatures. I've got a book as well somewhere, it's probably in the bin, and the shirt definitely is, with me tie around my neck and all this black writing all over my shirt. And I'm like, and some of it wasn't the pleasantest, and I thought, you know what, that's got to go in the bin. So I think that went straight in the bin, flour and all, when I got home.
So did you have a favourite subject at school, or were you just not really interested, apart from your drama, but no teacher?
But no teacher, yeah. I used to we did have a drama teacher to start with, so I used to really look forward to those classes, but then it didn't last for very long. I did, oh God, what was it called? It'd be Pitman word processing possibly at the time, and business and information studies. And I think that was in the early days of computers as well. So that, I used to quite enjoy that. And it was a business course that I actually did, business and finance course I actually did at college, and I actually got a distinction in maths in the finance bit, and I'm absolutely rubbish at it. It's just, how the hell did I do that? But
I was going to say that.
Yeah, it was totally random. Everything else was a merit. Was it merits and then distinctions? Everything else was a merit. All the other modules, finance, distinction. I thought, they've got to get that wrong. They've got to have had that wrong. But there you go. But yeah, it was business studies, I suppose. It was probably my favourite. Yeah.
Okay. So apart from the bullying, were there any other problems at school?
At one point, I always remember sitting. Now, I thought I was being naughty and I was doing lines, but I wasn't. And I was mildly dyslexic, and I had no idea. Very, very mildly. And so you can probably tell my handwriting's terrible anyway, but S's and 5s really threw me. I couldn't do either properly. So I used to have big lined paper. It was almost like music sheet paper, and I had to write, and I had to make sure I got the letters right in between those lines on the paper. I can't write it. I can't do it now. If I showed you this, you'd fall off your chair, but I'm like spider scroll. And I remember doing that and thinking, well, what's all this about? And one of the teachers had noticed that there was something wrong. Plus, I was sitting at the back of the class. I hated being the centre of attention, so I sat at the back and I was squinting. So my eyesight wasn't good. I used to wear glasses in those days, those pink NHS prescription ones. And that was part of the bullying as well, like prescription glasses and straight greasy hair and then a massive perm was just didn't do my street cred any good, and that was what bullying was about. But I don't wear glasses anymore or contact lenses. The optician said my eyes corrected themselves. It'd probably go, the other way eventually, but at the moment they're okay. But when I had them, I was like, oh, wow. And I think combined with the lines and the writing, actually being able to see things properly was sort of helped me overcome that dyslexia. It was only a very, very mild form. So, it was obviously correctable. Nobody's noticed that, I draw like a spider now. Nobody said that anything's wrong, but, it was quite strange. I was quite lucky that somebody had spotted it and just said, do this. And that combined with my glasses, I think probably helped.
Yeah.
Although it caused a few issues otherwise, I think that probably was a massive help, to be fair, thinking about it now.
Yeah. So you went on to further education.
Yeah.
You told us that you studied business and finance.
Yeah.
Studies. So what else did you study at college? Because you said you went several times. So what?
I did. I went backwards and forwards because I started work when I was 16 in a restaurant, and I was there for 5 years. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I then got a job in a newsagent's, which then led to a job all at Merry Hill, because Merry Hill had opened by then. And then from the newsagents, I went to a shop just outside, which isn't there anymore. It's now Napoleon. It was a decorating shop. And while I was working there, I started to do more courses at college because I wanted to get out of the shop, even though I went back to work in a shop a couple of years ago, but I wanted to get out of retail. So I did word processing, I did touch typing because I couldn't remember any of it from school. I'd not really used it. And then I did management qualification. So I did the Chartered Management Institute, first line management qualification. I did the full course in that, the diploma in that. And then I've done quite a few. I'm still learning Spanish as well. I went back to night school to do that. And the very old Word and PowerPoint and all those, the ECDL ones, the IBT ones, I did quite a lot of them. RS, I did loads and loads of them. I just kept going back and doing that for some strange reason because they all teach the same thing. But I did quite a few of them. But the bigger one was the management course that I did in 2011. So 10 years ago, God.
Amazing how quick the time goes.
Oh, doesn't it? Blimey.
So then you went on a journey to become a natural healer, a psychic medium, a public speaker, and then a tour rep. Well, I know your tour rep was the last bit of the journey.
It was.
So how did we get into becoming a natural healer and psychic medium and public speaker, and which came first?
The healer, actually.
Yeah.
When I started to recognise that I was suffering with mental health issues, I had no idea what was going on. So I went to the doctors and the usual, like, walk out with your prescription, have some time off, go chill, go do whatever. Fine. So then I went to see a counsellor. And at each stage of this, I've worked with coaches, counsellors, and whoever. And it's quite strange how it happened because I went away with my parents just after I was diagnosed. I think I'd gone back to work. I'm not quite sure because my head was such a mess now. It was all over the place. And you put dates to me and I'm like, ugh. But I only went to Southport, and the only reason that I went was because there was a day trip to Liverpool, and I've got friends who lived in Liverpool, and I'm like, I'd like to see what Liverpool's like. There was a dry bar, because I don't drink, as you know. And I thought, I want to see what this concept is all about. What's this dry bar thing? And it was basically just a bar that served food, did entertainment, but didn't serve alcohol. And in the hotel that we were staying in was Best Western, I think it was at the time, and they got an advert for a healing circle. While I was there, it happened every Tuesday night, and I thought, oh, I'll just try it. I need to do something. I'd stopped taking the tablets because I didn't want to take them. I was still struggling, and I thought, well, I haven't got anything to lose, and it was free. They were just asking for donations, and I thought, right, let's do it. So I went in, and I don't know what he did, because I was like facing that way. He was behind me, and he was balancing my chakras. That's basically what he was doing. But I had no idea how at that time. And obviously I learned since, because I became a crystal therapist myself. And I felt amazing when I came out of there. I felt completely different. Like somebody had put that Lisa in there, but they pulled another one out. It was so powerful. And I thought that started my curiosity into, well, how can I do this to help other people? And it ultimately to help myself, because I needed to do something, and I needed to do it quick. So I came out there. He gave me loads of books. He gave me CDs. I came out armed with a load of stuff. Started reading it. Started listening to the CDs. Some didn't suit, so I gave them away, and some really resonated. So that kind of started my journey. And once I'd been, was it after that? Not long after that, when I did my crystal therapy course, and then I started to go to Spiritualist Church, and then started I needed to learn myself what the signs were within me of what's good and what's bad, because I'd gone down all these paths and done all these things, made all these mistakes, and thought, why did you do that? And it was only afterwards, and only very recently, and I thought, that's your warning sign, that's your nice sign, that's this. And it's recognising it within yourself, and partly attending the church has helped me to do that. And as the time had gone on, I was going there every week, up until the time that I actually went away, up until the time when I moved to Menorca to work for 6 months. And it's all, I picked up different things from all of it, which enabled me to do it myself and do it for other people, read for other people. Then in the meantime as well, I also qualified as a wellbeing coach. So all of it was all self-help, but all of it is also there for me to help others as well. So it was twofold, really. All of it was twofold, really. So, which is quite nice, really.
That's that. And you did a tour repping for a season
And a half, really.
Yeah
Been 2 seasons, but because of COVID,
that was curtailed.
Yeah.
And before that, you also ended up having to have your hysterectomy.
Yes, I did.
Which is written in your book, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And I think for a young person who hasn't had a family, must have been worse than what mine was, because I think even after having a hysterectomy, what they don't tell you is that then you're plunged into an early menopause.
Yeah.
And then you get all the anxiety from that, and the repercussions of what can happen in a relationship when you're not interested.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah, very, very much so. It was I wasn't, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we? And I wasn't as young as you, but I've got no children, and obviously now I never will have children. And it was in 2016 I had the surgery. I'd been under the doctor for a long time. Finally diagnosed with endometriosis, and eventually I went and found my surgeon, because I did manage to go private for it. Found my surgeon in Birmingham, and he was brilliant. But again, they still don't tell you. They give you a leaflet, but they still don't tell you. I never even thought about it till I sat in front of him, and he went, well, if you have all this done, you have to go on HRT. And I went, what's that? What for? I was 42 at the time, and that's how naive I was. And I'm like, well, okay, so the choice is that I put up with the pain for potentially another 10 years. I'd already had it for 30. Or I go down this road and I just learned to deal with it. And at that time, I'd done a lot of work on myself, a hell of a lot of work, mentally and physically. And then I dropped out of the gym before I had my hysterectomy. But after having that, I then went back. And I think if I hadn't done all that work previously, with being diagnosed with the stress, anxiety and depression before, I would really, really have struggled with that situation, because they don't prepare you for it. They don't give you any advice. They don't give you counselling after hysterectomy. You just expected to find your own way. And once I'd got past the pain, I thought I'd made the conscious decision that, this is my life, this is my choice. Am I going to wait around and see if I have children? Well, I wouldn't have had any now, because I haven't been in a relationship since then. So you think, well, yeah, things may have worked out differently, but if you go by what has happened, then I still wouldn't have had children, and I'm now 47. So I would have still have had that pain, and it was only getting worse when I went in for the surgery, and it's just vile. It's just vile. And I was forced, given the choice, I would rather not take medication, but I was told, it actually said, I won't do it unless you do it, unless you take it. So I was like, all right then, fair enough. Which, it is what it is. I'm kind of dreading coming off it, because I think, oh God, you've got the other side of it then, haven't you? But it was a godsend for me. Now none of my family have ever taken HRT, so I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What do I expect from this? And I think if I hadn't taken that, I would be a lot worse as well. But no, they don't tell you. Yeah. They don't tell you anything. That was in 2016, and then I went back to work. I couldn't do my job properly. I was really lucky, because my boss at the time I knew from before. He'd come back to work for us, and I worked directly for him, and he was really good. And that was the other thing. I worked for a man. Well, actually, boss, I can't come in today because I've got to go into hospital. Some really tough conversations, but we did get on really well, so that was a bonus. And when I came out, HR visited home and all the rest of it, went back to work part-time, and it was him that said, do this, this and this. So he was really good. And then other people weren't so good, and they were like, well, you need to be doing this, Liz, you need to see your customers. I went, I can Zoom and I can talk to them and I can email them. I don't need to travel to see them. And then I went to one meeting, I think, by train, and I just thought, I can't do this. Within a couple of weeks, redundancy was on the table, and I went, I'll have that. And I took it. And I've never looked back. It's been tough since, but I've never looked back. And
yeah. And you're also a naturist.
Yes.
When did you become a naturist? That was something that I didn't even know about our Lisa.
It was so funny, because you go to networking meetings and you go, tell us about this and tell us about that and tell us about you, and you think, oh, here's my 60-second pitch, and I am going to put that in there. I think I've got to put that in there because I was on a BSO meeting the other day, and I'm like, tell me something about you. Right, okay, I'm a naturalist. What? Oh, it was you. I'm like, yeah, it was me. And I have to say to anybody and everybody, you must do it at least once because it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I went on holiday to Fuerteventura specifically to do that, specifically to go onto a naturalist beach. And I was a bit like, oh, what have I done? And I was like hiding up the corner like this, and I decided I didn't like sand after this because it gets everywhere. And I'm like, the sand, no, this is not good. Oh my God. So now I do it from rocks. And I didn't discover skinny dip until I went to Menorca, but when I went to Fuerteventura the first time, that was the whole purpose of it. And I spent a fortune on the holiday, on the hotel, on all-inclusive south of Fuerteventura, and I went on trips, I went on boat trips, I went on jeep safaris. I saw quite a lot of the country, especially the south. And the best thing I ever did was free, because I went onto the Naturalist beach, and it was amazing. It was probably the most liberating thing I have ever done. And I would say to anybody, do it at least once. If you don't like it, don't do it again. But it's amazing. And it's the smallest of things, because you're not doing anything special. You are just walking down a beach with no clothes on. That's all it is. But people get the wrong idea, because people think, oh, it's perverse, it's crude, it isn't. It's just getting back to nature. That's all it is. And it is absolutely brilliant, I have to say. So it's just, and I can see June's nodding right there.
Did it in Saint-Tropez in 1986.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
And it is incredibly liberating. Incredibly liberating.
See, I now have a witness. People go, no.
Yeah.
We were camping. I don't know if you remember Euro Camp. I don't know if they're still around now. But they were a huge concern at the time, and we went camping, and there were 6 of us. We were all friends, and we decided that we definitely got to just do it. None of us had seen each other nude.
Yeah.
We all went into our compartments and got undressed, and then it was like after 3, like we all jumped out. Well, we were absolutely hysterical. But the funniest thing was, there was a French family right opposite us, and they were so pan-faced, they didn't crack their face at all, which made it even more hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's very, very liberating.
Yeah. People who don't do it just look at you. I mean, as working as a tour rep, one of the things I had to do in both countries I worked in, because there were naturists, Spain's very open about it, and like Menorca, there weren't many places you couldn't do it. Fuerteventura, there were like, you can't do it in this place or this place, but and it wasn't families that I was dealing with that were the ones that were going, it was couples, and I'm like, oh, you should try it, and they're like, the whole look of horror. I'm like, oh, and you do it once, if you don't like it, don't do it again.
Wow.
And they were like, oh my God, I'm glad you've told me that. That's horrible.
I haven't done it since. I haven't had the opportunity to do it since. No, the closest I get now is having a quick wee in the countryside when we go for a walk. But there you go.
Then you have to try skinny dipping now then.
Yeah.
Because it was, again, I worked throughout most of my career, I've worked for men. And I worked for, it was a young lad, he was younger than me when I was in Menorca. And we got on really, really well. He got the most gorgeous eyes, and I'm like, and you couldn't look at him. You just couldn't look at him. And we got talking, and I was again going down that dodgy road of I'm stressed because this job, it's a hard job. To be under no illusions, anybody who wants to be a tour rep, it's a hard job, and it's probably going to be even worse, obviously, when we go back to it. But I had some really shit times in Menorca with it because of things that had happened in there with different guests and whatever. And I remember sitting. It said I'd had some time off, and he'd said meet me in the coffee shop by where he lived, which wasn't far from where I was living. So I was like, all right then, expecting like a round of, because I was literally falling apart, and I was like, Dan, I can't do this anymore. Send me home. And he's like, no, I'm not sending you home. You've got to do something. And I'm like, I'm in a beautiful country, and I didn't go out anywhere because I was literally working, because I was trying to get my head around a new job, trying to learn their systems and processes and whatever. And being my age, I didn't want to go out every night. I don't drink, so I didn't want to go out and get drunk. So occasionally we'd go for a meal, and we used to like travel wherever. And the one this afternoon, he went, just have the rest of the afternoon off, go home, get changed. He said, actually, don't bother, just go skinny dipping. And I just laughed. I just went, I can't believe you just said that. And he went, Lise, just try it. So I did exactly what he told me to do, to be fair. For the first time ever, I did what I was told. And I thought, well, do you know what? I've got nothing to lose. And where I lived in Binnybecker, if anybody goes to Menorca, you've got to go to Binnybecker. It's beautiful. And just down the road from our apartment, there's a few bars. So it was about, I suppose it was about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile walk. And you come to rocks. The beach was virtually right in front of where we were, but you come to rocks if you walk further down. So me and my flatmate did it as well, strangely enough. And I'm like, I'm going skinny dipping, and she's like, oh, okay, I'll come with you. I was like, all right then, let's go. So we went skinny dipping, and absolutely, it's even better than being on a nudist beach. It's absolutely brilliant. And that area, people are jumping in off the rocks and things. So there was only once when I went down there that I couldn't get anywhere, and I thought, oh, this is pointless. But every other time I'd managed to go. So we always went down, whether I went on my own or whether we went together, always went down there. But we lived in an apartment that had got a pool. So very often, if we had some time off together, so we'd be in the pool, and then the other girls would come home and they go, oh God, they're at it again. And then eventually, when we weren't around, they wanted to do it on their own, but fair enough. And I was like, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what's it like? And all of them were like, it's really liberating. And I'm like, it is brilliant. So yeah. So my boss, thank you, Dan, he's like, just get in the sea. And I was like, okay. And
how do you spell the name of that resort, Lisa?
Binnybecker, Binniebeca, I think. I'm not sure whether it's 2 N's or 2 C's, but Binny. It is actually spelled different to that in Spain because there's a Q in it somewhere. But if you search Binnybecker Menorca, it should come up. They've got Punta Prima's not far away. Binisafua, really, really, really nice area. It's beautiful. There's Binnybecker Village is just in itself is worth a visit. I mean, I don't know what it'll be like now because there was bars and restaurants there, but it's a whitewashed village.
Oh, lovely.
And it's almost like a miniature village, but a big miniature village, if you like, because it's really like all whitewashed, or you can walk in through all the little nooks and crannies, and people live there, so you obviously have to respect their the times and things. Right down by the harbour, absolutely gorgeous.
Well, it's something to dream about when we can travel, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can't wait. I am going back there because Karen's read the book, but the hotel, giving a little bit away now, is actually in Menorca.
Ah.
And I've never stayed there, but I worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's lovely.
Interesting.
I think the first time I met you, or the first time I remember meeting you, was when you told a story about
yeah.
Napoleon.
Yeah.
Do you still tell that story? And would you like to tell that story today?
I told that story for a while. I do sometimes share the video on Facebook and LinkedIn and things. So I think, and it does get quite a few comments. People have sent me messages off the back of it. But at that particular time, Napoleon was my boyfriend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Napoleon.
My best friend. The bottom of the bottle.
Uh-huh.
Actually, he's not in the book, which is a shame. He swapped identities, he's Jack in the book. And he was the answer to everything, basically. He was the answer is at the bottom of this bottle of brandy. Or I didn't drink brandy, that was just because it was named. But it's when I was at my worst, which actually was probably a long time before I was diagnosed, because I didn't realise what was happening. And I was drinking, I was smoking, I was drink driving. And I got to the point where I was watching other people and thinking, they're going to do themselves a mischief, or they're going to hurt themselves, or they're going to kill themselves. And I actually sat the one day and I thought, that's me. You attract, you know, you're a mirror image of what you attract, aren't you? And I thought, that's me. And I got to that point where I thought, I've got to stop. There's only one way this is going to go. And if I carry on, it's not going to be pretty. And I gave up smoking and drinking. And I pretty much did it overnight. I was ill. And I pretty much did it overnight, which is not advisable. So it was cold turkey, really. And for a number of years, I thought, yeah, this is the way, and it was just, I don't remember anything, don't remember much of it. I lost that part of my life because I was clubbing and I'd fall asleep on speakers. That's how drunk I was. Then I'd get in the car and drive home. And before anybody writes in and tries to get me arrested, yes, I know it was bad and it was wrong. And it was that combined that I thought, you're going to kill somebody if you don't stop doing this. And it was just that light switch, and I thought, I've got to stop this. I've got to stop this. And I did. It takes a lot, though. It does take a lot of willpower to do it. But yeah, he was my best friend, was Napoleon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Yeah. And that's obviously why you're teetotal now.
Yeah. I wasn't particularly avoiding it, because I don't avoid it because I think, I'm going to go there again. Because I'm a lot stronger now, and I know that if I chose to, I could have a glass of wine, or I used to drink Pims or martinis, lager and black, which made me sick when I was younger, so I can't drink black and squash either. But I don't think, if I have another one, I'm going to start being, I'm going to go back down that road again. I don't think that at all. If I wanted to, I just don't like the taste of it. I just never found anything that I really think, and I don't like not being in control, even though we're in a situation where nobody's in control. Personally, I don't like that feeling either that it gives you. And looking back now and thinking, if somebody was to say to me things I did, and one of my exes I'm still in touch with, and he's like, you were vile. And I'm like, thanks for that. And he's like, and I'm like, but what did I do? And it must be bad because he won't tell me. And I'm like, but I don't know, so you need to tell me. He's like, you don't need to know, it's gone, forget it. And I'm like, okay. But you don't, because you just don't realise the damage that it is doing to you. I'd quite happily sit, if I could find one. I used to love Asti. I'd quite happily sit with a glass of Asti, but I just choose not to because I don't like the taste of it, and I don't like the I've got enough brain fuzz without having that. I don't need that to help me anymore. I'm like, right, I can do this. Maybe if I did have a drink again, it might clear my head.
Yeah.
I've been banging it up against the wall for the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, maybe if I had a bottle of Asti, well, I wouldn't notice the wall then, would I? Just bang it. No, I'm not going to try though. I'm not going to try.
No. So if you look back over the whole of your life, is there anything that you would have changed?
At one point, I would have said everything. I would have said yes. I've made so many mistakes. I've been in so many bad relationships, jobs I should have stayed in for 5 minutes. I was there for like 15 years. But now I've got to this stage in my life, and no, I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it's made me stronger, and what I've been through has taught me a lot. Plus, it's also meant that I can help other people. I mean, I would never have been able to write a book if I hadn't experienced those things.
Mm.
And I'm planning and starting to write the second one now as well. And had it not been for any of that, the book would have looked different. It might have been entertaining or whatever, but I don't think it would have been as powerful as the feedback that I'm getting from it says that it is. And I think, it also goes back to that, don't regret it. It was right at the time. Whatever I did was right at the time. Whether it was wrong or right, it was still right at the time. And I think life's too short as well to regret, because if you don't learn from it, it'll happen again. And that happened to me several times over. And I think, all right then, what are you teaching me now? And now I do stop and think, well, what is this situation teaching me? And even especially with like COVID, well, why has this come? And I'd already decided I wasn't going to carry on doing the rep's job. However, the job's still open. If there's a placement, I may go back to it. But at that particular time, I thought, I've got to do, if I want to live abroad, is this the way to do it? And then we were brought home, and I thought, well, obviously not. And that bought me the time to actually write the book. I'd started doing it when I was away, but it actually bought me the time to do it and finish it and publish it. So, no, I don't think I would change anything.
Okay. And how can anybody on the broadcast help you, or listeners who are listening to the recording help you?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and answer that one first.
That one. Oh, there's another one after.
Yeah.
At the moment, I suppose it's just share my book, just share my posts. I am looking to find, this is quite specific, so I don't know whether it exists or he exists, but it does need to be a gentleman, not being sexist, but a man who was in the army in the early 90s, but who now runs an engineering business, because that's the research, the next bit of the research that I'm doing for my next book, because the next book is one of the other characters, which is Tom, and he was in the army, and he has to come out because of an injury. So I've already spoken to a couple of people about the forces and what it was like in there, but they don't run, although they were engineers, they don't run engineering businesses. So it's the engineering business and the transition, that's the word, from army life to civilian life. So I just to have a chat with them. That's what I'm looking for at the moment. And just to, even if you don't read the posts or comment, share.
Okay. And if anybody on the broadcast or in the audience needs your help, how can they get in touch with you?
My website's live, which is www.lisambillingham.com. My email address is lisa@lisambillinghamdot.com. lisambbillingham.com. I haven't put my phone number out there because I don't have a business phone number. It's my personal one, so I've left my phone number blank at the moment. Or I'm on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, loads of them. What else am I on? Am I on anything else? I get so confused with them all. LinkedIn, that's it, LinkedIn as well. So just drop me a message. I'm trying to concentrate on the book. I'm doing more around getting the marketing of the book right so that I can get it to the right audiences and actually spread it a bit, because the book is available worldwide on Amazon anyway. It's just getting that message out to the wider audience. And book reviews, if anybody's read the book. Book reviews are always very welcome on Amazon, or Goodreads, because I'm trying to build my profile on Goodreads. That's the other one. I'm on so many of them. So I'm trying to like narrow it down and find the right platform to actually work on. And my website is in the process, or I will be this week, of updating that and getting that a bit more streamlined, if you like. So it's all work in progress at the moment.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions to ask Lisa?
Yeah, I think I have a question to ask you, Lisa. Really a kind of a personal one. How do you feel not having children, actually? I mean, do you feel as though you've missed out somehow, or you cannot really talk about it, or?
It's not something that I think about very often. It doesn't bother me talking about it. It was a tough decision to make, and it was an easy decision to make, if that makes sense, because I couldn't see another way out. At the time, I was seeing somebody, if you like, and it wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, am I going to hang on and wait and see and suffer this for another 10 years and I may not have any? Or am I actually going to try do something about this and then just go and live my life and basically accept? And I suppose it's more of an acceptance than anything else, that that's the way my life has turned out, or that's the choices that I've made have led me to that, on that path. And I haven't got children, and I don't think I've missed out. I know, people are talking to me about their children. I can't understand that from a mother point of view, but it doesn't mean I can't help people. And I don't think I'm any worse for not having children. And who knows, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. I may well foster or adopt, which somebody had suggested to me before I had the hysterectomy, actually. And it's just one of those things. I think it's how you handle the situation a lot of the time. That's what it comes down to. And I would say I've only got myself to blame, but I've only got myself to thank, really, because I'm pain-free. And we're in lockdown, so that's a bit different, but I can pretty much do what I want. So I do have the freedom, and I don't have to worry about other people, which is quite a bonus, because I have enough trouble looking after myself. But I don't feel like I've missed out. I suppose it's one of those, it's an unknown, because I don't know what it feels like. And I don't regret it either.
I think, oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I have another question about your second book which you're going to write.
Yeah.
Okay, your first book is over your life and your hysterectomy, and now your second book is going to be totally different.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
It's each of the books, each of the characters portrays something that's happened to me. Not all of it, not all of those things have happened, but they may have happened in a different way. Just to turn it into a book, you can't say, well, this happened in, up the corner in this pub or whatever. It's all kind of fantasy, if you like, in that respect. But each of the characters has or does something that I've maybe done, or I've experienced, or I know somebody who has. And this one's going to be harder because it's going to be from a man's point of view. hence the fact that I do want to interview men. I mean, it doesn't have to be anybody, you know, if anybody wants to chat to me and think it might be useful for the book, I'm quite happy to have a conversation. But it's getting over the emotions and the feelings in that. That was the biggest part of the book for me. And the same with this one, you know, whether it's a female character or a male character, they will represent me in some way. But their journey will take the journey that they want to, because the characters tend to write themselves once you start anyway. And they'll take the journey that they need to take for that particular book.
Okay,
But yes, it'll be harder because it's from a man's point of view, but I want to capture that so that men don't realise that, you know, men know that they're not alone, because the first book is mainly for women, but like Karen said, like, men should read it. And that the second book is kind of a follow-on from that, just to see what he's thinking about the situation and what he's thinking, you know, what's going on in his life. And then that when their paths cross, the story will like intertwine with what happens at that particular time. And then, you know, he goes away and he does his own thing, and, you know, while she's doing that. So it's telling it from the other person's point of view, but they will be, he's a gambler. This character's a gambler. No, I'm not a massive gambler, but I used to play bingo 2 or 3 times a week sometimes, lottery, till it come out my ears. So it's kind of like that part of it is him. But I can tell that part of the story from my experiences, if you like.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say that endometriosis is a really painful medical condition, and I think you certainly did the right thing, because life's too short to be suffering and pain for all those years. And you never know what's around the corner, do you? You may well find somebody and have a ready-made family. How fabulous would that be?
Yeah, exactly. My friends keep saying that to me.
Yeah. But I think your books are a fabulous self-love tool for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they are actually. It's very cathartic writing it.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of stuff about, when I was researching writing the book, I did courses and whatever. And most of the things that I've read have all said, and I've read The Kite Runner, and I've read all his, Khaled Hosseini, I can't say his name properly, but all about Afghanistan and the situation in the war in Afghanistan, and they're fabulous books. But in the back of this last one I read, he says he wrote the book and wrote all of his books for himself.
Yeah.
And that's the key. So when you're sitting down, why are you writing this book? Because everybody's got a book in them. Why are you writing this book? And I was like, oh, I don't really know. So you've got to have a purpose. And I'm like, as I'm writing it, it's very, very cathartic. But it's also, I also wanted it to help other people. You know, most novels, you sit and you think, well, it's just a bit of entertainment. It's just a bit of, you know, a bit of fun if it's a comedy or whatever. And this kind of incorporates a lot of different things and quite emotional, which, you know, most people who I've spoken to since have gone, I really wanted her to come out on top. I was really like fighting her corner and whatever, like, you know, and to help people see that there is a way through. Do you know what I mean? There is a way forward, basically.
Brilliant.
Thank you. There's a chat in here.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for joining me for afternoon tea today.
Yes, it's a pity we can't do this face to face, isn't it? Because it'd be really nice to have a cup of tea and a piece of cake now.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah, it really would. It really would. I think at this rate, we're all going to have to start wearing pink carnations when we meet them.